Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Paul,
Good evening, this is Bev.
and we are here with BioTouch Healing, sharing with you how to work with Hashimoto's disease. This is our monthly health condition workshop. We love sharing these. We have many of them on our website, justtouch.com, if you want to check it out. This one is going to be a repeat, but it's one of the biggest ones people look for in our website Google search. It's interesting.
Yep.
So we thought we would do it again. It's a two-part program. One is a presentation by our beloved Debra Schildhouse, the author of our book BioTouch Healing with the Power in Our Fingertips. She's going to share her personal experience about Hashimoto's disease. And then the second part of the class will be teaching the few sets of points that we consider most essential to work with Hashimoto's disease. Now, if you're going to stick around for that or you're going to teach yourself, you can go to justtouch.com/workbook and download for free this time the workbook on Hashimoto's disease that Bev will share with you after the presentation. So without further ado, we're just going to go right into the presentation and then we'll be right back with you to teach you the points.
So Hashimoto thyroiditis is the official words that you use to describe this. This is a disorder of the thyroid gland. And the thyroid gland is right here in the front of your throat. It's actually a butterfly-shaped gland. It's small, but it is mighty. I have a lot of respect for this gland, and that's because it regulates body temperature, respiration, metabolism, digestion, mood, mental outlook. In fact, it just about affects every organ in the body. So when it does malfunction, it can produce too much thyroid hormone, and that is called hyperthyroidism, or too little thyroid hormone, which is called hypothyroidism. So Dr. Hikaru Hashimoto, back in 1912, discovered new pathologies while he was studying at a surgery center in Japan. And he extracted thyroid tissue samples from patients, and then he went on to write a 30-page paper about his findings. And what he discovered was the autoimmune disorder that causes the white blood cells and the antibodies to see the thyroid gland as a foreign invader and attack it and destroy the thyroid tissue. That's exactly what is happening. You are being attacked. Your thyroid is being attacked. Hashimoto is now the #1 cause of hypothyroidism in the United States. It affects women 10 times more than men, which is often the case in many other autoimmune diseases as well. And most women are diagnosed between the ages of 30 and 50. I was 51 when I was diagnosed. My daughter was 31, and my mother was in her 70s. So many women suffer for up to 10 years before they actually get a diagnosis. And why is that? Well, it's because there are so many symptoms when it comes to Hashimoto that they're all over the place and they mimic other disorders. Now, there are 5 of what they call the typical symptoms. And those 5, interestingly enough, I never had one of them. That is how over the top this whole thing can get. Okay, so the #1 is exhaustion, where you absolutely can never feel rested no matter how much sleep you get. #2 is extremely dry, flaky skin. #3 is significant hair loss. And you can even lose the hair a third of your eyebrows here at the outer corners, you can lose those. Now, I never did, but my mother did. And at the time, we didn't know what that meant when it happened to her. Number 4, always feeling cold. And number 5, inability to lose weight no matter how hard you try, or gaining weight without changing your diet. So those are like the 5 golden symptoms, if you will, but there are so many more. So there's anxiety, nervousness, and emotional roller coaster. There's depression. There's digestive issues. Now, I actually had digestive issues when my thyroid was under attack, and I'll talk more about that later. Irregular periods and or heavy periods, infertility, joint pain, and severe body aches. My mother had such terrible pains in her legs for months. She just was always in the tub trying to figure out how to help herself. And then she started falling. Well, never did I ever see that falling was a symptom. But as soon as she got on the right medication, her pain stopped and she stopped falling. Susceptibility to colds and viruses, low libido, miscarriages, trembling and increased pulse rate, breathing issues, air hunger. I had that when mine was being attacked. Yeah, that was bad. Sensitivity to cold or heat, and I am still sensitive to heat. Swelling, fullness in the throat, difficulty swallowing like you're choking. I had that also. I had some of the real good ones. Brain fog and hoarseness in your voice. So that is still not, that probably doesn't even cover all of them. But you can see why some people have a hard time getting a diagnosis, because these are just all over the board. So what are the causes of Hashimoto? Well, genetics play a very, very large role, just like they do in a lot of autoimmune diseases. So obviously in my case, my daughter has Hashimoto, I have it, and my mother had it. And my sister actually has a different autoimmune disease. She has one called Jorgen's syndrome, which is where your mucous membranes dry up. She has 2 daughters, so it'll be interesting to see as they age if they actually develop an autoimmune disease as well. Number 2, there can be environmental triggers like certain foods, pesticides, radiation, mold, or chronic stress. And number 3, hormonal changes like pregnancy and menopause. So how is Hashimoto diagnosed? So if your doctor suspects that that is what you have, you will have lab work done. And this lab work will measure your thyroid function. One of the tests is called the TSH test. That stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And it should actually measure between 0.3 and 3.0 milliunits per liter. Sometimes they'll say 4.0. When I was diagnosed, my TSH was over 14. So it was off the charts, crazy, right? And then there's some other tests called free T4, free T3, reverse T3, and antibody tests. These are just the full thyroid panels. These are what is normally taken, and they can tell pretty well from these tests if you have Hashimoto. And so once your results are in and your doctor says, yep, you've got Hashimoto, your doctor will most likely prescribe for you a thyroid hormone medication. And it will either be a manufactured levothyroxine, which is like Synthroid, or it could be a natural hormone from desiccated pig thyroids, like Armor. And some people do better on one, some people do better on another. So sometimes you have to, just kind of see what's best for you. But most people will stay on this pill once a day for the rest of their lives. Now, when I started taking the pill, it took about 4 months for me to actually feel kind of like myself again. So you have to be patient, Now, luckily for me, the worst of my symptoms, they cleared up pretty quickly once I started taking, the medication. But again, it was a good 4 months before I thought, okay, I'm back. So, yeah. So to feel better though, along with the medication, there are some other things that you can do, and these are some great things. So the first thing I really suggest is that you become your own expert on your own condition. There is so much information now on the internet that you can read and you can get to understand what is happening in your body. And there's some very basic websites like clevelandclinic.org or mayoclinic.org, and they will start you off with some very basic information. And then from there, you could spend months and I figured I'm going to know what's going on here. And it's really such a good idea to do that, because then when you start to communicate with your doctor, you can be a real team player. You can ask the right questions and you can understand the answers. And if you're like me, you want to be a team player with your doctor, and you're going to want a doctor who listens to you. That's really important, because every time you take some blood and you see what your numbers are, he could say, oh, or she could say, oh, look at your numbers, they're perfect now, see you in 6 months. But you're not feeling good. Maybe you still have some symptoms that are really bothering you. And, you don't want to be dismissed. There are other things they can do to help you through these symptoms. And one of the things that gave me the power to make sure I had the right doctor was what I was reading online, because a lot of women suffer with being kind of dismissed by their doctor. So it's very important that you educate yourself and that you find the right doctor, because they are out there. I had to find a few different ones, and then we moved twice from Tucson and I had to find more, and I found some doctors that were not intimidated by my questions or by, what I had learned, kind of thing. So that's very important, the right doctor, and educating yourself. Lower your stress levels. That's easy to do now too, because they have such great videos, calm videos, right? Where you can do meditations, take your long walks, take your hot baths, whatever makes you feel better. Even if it's hugging a tree. And I have to say, now that I'm no longer living in the desert where I couldn't hug cactus, I'm up here on the mountain now when we have pine trees, and you know what? I hug some and it feels good. I have to say, I'm now a tree hugger. So whatever works. You want to lower your stress. Okay, improve your sleep quality. How do you do that? Well, room darkening shades, lower the temperature in your room, get a white noise machine. I have all these things going. My husband's learned to live with them. And you know what? It's important to get that good quality of sleep. The next is increase your sun exposure on your face. Take off your sunglasses. Don't have your sunscreen. Put your face up to the sun for at least 15 minutes or so, maybe 3 times a week. And what that does is it lowers your stress and you get a good boost of vitamin D, and it boosts your immune system. And so, try to make an effort to really get that sun on you. Number 6, cut back on goitrogens. What are goitrogens? Well, they're foods that inhibit your ability to metabolize iodine, and your thyroid needs iodine. So foods like broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, those are good for, they're good vegetables for a lot of people. But if you're having symptoms or if you are newly diagnosed, you have to just stay away from those for a while. Okay, number 7, increase the foods that are really good for your thyroid. Bone broth, fermented foods like kefir, sauerkraut, and yogurt and buttermilk. These are very good for your gut health, and there is a connection between your gut health and your thyroid gland. Number 8, limit alcohol. Number 9, take selenium supplements, or I just take 2 Brazil nuts. I eat 2 Brazil nuts every day, and that gives me enough selenium. And also B vitamins are important for thyroid. And of course, I have saved the best for last. Number 10 is BioTouch. Let me just tell you, BioTouch, it has sets of points that can address every single symptom that I've been talking about. It lowers stress levels, it lowers pain levels, it makes you feel cared for. And if you're having breathing issues, guess what? There's a long set of points. There's an oxygen point. If you are having pain, if you are having metabolism problems, which you will probably be anyway with, Hashi, they have all the points for that. So there's just nothing better. I mean, that is like the whole package right there. And boy, do I wish I had known about BioTouch when I was diagnosed, but I was diagnosed 4 years before I ever discovered BioTouch. But who knows how much quicker I could have returned to feeling like myself. But what happened to me was, here it was 2005, and I'll never forget the date. It was August 28th, because you just don't forget a date like this. I had no issues, no problems. I had no symptoms. I was feeling great. Everything was going well in life. And all of a sudden, I woke up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. I felt like I was drowning. And I'm out of bed, and I was trying to be quiet. I didn't want to wake my husband. And I left the room, and I went and I put water on my face. My hands were tingling and numb. It was the strangest thing, and I couldn't get my breathing back right. It was like my rhythm was off. So okay, so I had a really weird 45 minutes, and then I thought, okay, whatever, that was weird. And I went on with my life. It happened a week and a half later, again. Same thing, I was sleeping, and I was like drowning, and I woke up gasping. This time my husband woke up. He's like, what's going on? I said, I don't know what's going on. And again, I'm trying to, rub my hands, and I'm trying to get my breathing back. And it took a lot longer to get my breathing. It was like my rhythm was gone. And so that was so strange. And when I started then was to like being afraid to go to sleep. I thought for sure I was going to die in my sleep, So that happened. And then real quickly, it was one thing after another. I started getting that swelling in my throat. So I couldn't easily swallow, and I felt like I was choking. I lost 22 pounds in less than 3 weeks because all I could swallow was ice water and rice and a little bit of egg. So there was that going on. And I had, I was cold and hot, and I was shaky, and I still had this like breathing problem, and I was like always like trying to get air in my lungs. And then we went to a restaurant one night, and we were in the restaurant. I'll never forget it. All of a sudden, it was like it was too noisy. There were too many people. I felt claustrophobic, and I had to stand up and run out of the restaurant and run into the parking lot. And my husband's like, "What is going on with you?" And so, I mean, this was my thyroid gland under attack, and you can see in every way what was going on now that we know what the thyroid gland does. And so he finally said, "You're going to a doctor, right?" I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to the doctor." And so the doctor explained, he thought he figured out pretty quickly what it was. And he said, "You were under attack, your thyroid's under attack. And so everything is going haywire." And so, got on the medication. And like I said, it took about 4 months, but at least right away, my swelling on my throat was going down. My breathing was easing for a while. Some of the worst symptoms were, and you also felt better because you know what it is. You don't think you're losing your mind. And I can see why some of these women that suffer for 10 years, that must be really, really horrible. It's not a fun thing. But the good news about Hashimoto is that it can be managed. It's now been 16 years. And the only thing that still bothers me is I am sensitive still to heat, which is a lot easier living up on the mountain than in the desert now. And the doctor had told me that my diaphragm had been weakened when I was under attack. And so when I take walks around here, and we are at almost 7,000 feet of elevation, I will huff and puff. And so I know that, that's what it is. But my mother went on, when she was on her medication, she went on to have a nice, long, healthy life. She lived to be almost 96. And my daughter, they were watching her because they knew that her mother and grandmother had Hashimoto. So they were taking her blood regularly. And when they saw that she was getting some antibodies and some things that were pointing toward that, they put her on the medication so she didn't have to suffer through any of these weird symptoms. Mm-hmm. So again, if you do have Hashimoto, it can be tough, but it can also be well managed. So thank you very much.
Wowee. We're back. And that was, I forgot what a great presentation that was. So.
Me too. Me too.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, especially, what I really liked is, and as we teach these points, these BioTouch healing points, one of the big factors, besides, as Debra talked about, stress reduction, pain reduction, is the idea that when you get BioTouch healing, it gives you that self-awareness that you know what you need.
That's
and
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it empowers you to be a team player. It gives you the strength to know what you need, to go to your professional medical care, healthcare practitioners, and to sit with them. And because you've now tuned into your body, you know what you need, you know what kind of protocols you want to do, you do your research, but it really is that self-awareness. Yeah.
Boy, that's the truth. When she was talking about that, becoming the researcher, and yeah, that's what we always talk about with BioTouch. This is how you become participant in your journey of healing, right? Yeah.
So let us teach you some points, some very few sets of points. Again, go to justtouch.com/workbook, and you can download the workbook that Bev is going to just take this time now to share with you.
Yes, I will. If you have our workbook, you will notice that we always put on that first page the condition and a little overview of some key interesting points about that condition. So you can please read that. And so let's move to that page 6, that next page. It's entitled, So What is BioTouch? If you are new and you have never been to any of our trainings or workshops, this will be especially important for you. Those of you who have been with us for a while, we can always use a little bit of going over these key bullets that I'm going to introduce. So what is BioTouch? It is simply a light touch using the first 2 fingers of your hands, and you lightly touch on the skin. In fact, the lighter the touch, it seems the body hears it, feels it more intense. We call that a light butterfly touch. So like a butterfly on your skin. And it is a technique that has 17 sets of points. And as Debra was saying, we have a set of points for the metabolism, the oxygen, all these that she was talking about, the lung set. So it's a very integrative system of points that you touch on specific areas of the body. So let's go to the first bullet. It's easy to learn. And indeed, children have learned it and have taken our classes, and some have been, we've had a couple that have been actually certified. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible to everybody. And part of that wonderful thing is that it's so easy. It really is easy to learn. We love these workshops because we're focusing on just a few of the sets. It's not overwhelming. So you can go from here. You can go in, as Paul will cover with you, many ways to learn BioTouch. This is just one of them. So very easy to learn, very accessible for you to pick that up. It's a complement to any healthcare program. As Debra was saying, number 10 on that list, and most important, BioTouch. It is a complementary healthcare wellness system that literally integrates with any other type of healing healthcare program you're doing, whether it's a special diet, you're doing other modalities, maybe you're taking specific drugs for whatever you're doing. And BioTouch will just enhance all of that. It's non-invasive. There's no side effects. It's very effective, and it will just help from everything from that self-awareness of, going in another direction, becoming the researcher, talking to your physician, it helps you to become part of the healing journey. There are no levels of ability. This is the one thing that we're really trying to get out there. BioTouch is unique in the healing community because every single person already is capable of learning and practicing and helping other people. You cannot say that about any other of these modalities. There's no levels of ability. The only ability you need is to be a human being who cares about somebody. And the very first time that you take those 2 fingers and you do BioTouch with another person, you are going to be totally effective that very first time. So there's no need to know the anatomy. We just touch. Where do you hurt? Where is the diagnosis? What is going on? Need to know nothing more. You just need to want to help another person with their pain, with their suffering, with their stress. And it has been proven that BioTouch really addresses all of that. It requires no special preparation. You do not need to have a belief system. We have no philosophy. We honor everything. Everything is acceptable. Everything is right. So you do not need to go in and prepare a space. You do not need to cleanse yourself of any negative energy. You do not need to be, in this beautiful state of mind. No, you're a human being and you just reach out and touch another person. So that's really the basis of BioTouch. and what we really want to present tonight in addressing this Hashimoto's. So there are a few simple rules. We always want to wash our hands before we practice BioTouch with another person. It is one person, this is the definition, one person touching another person lightly on the skin. So the question always comes up, can you do BioTouch on yourself? We have a pat answer. Well, you can if you can reach those specific points. But again, BioTouch is it forces us into a relationship of healing. One person standing and being present with another human being. That's when healing really, really takes place. So yes, you can. Is it effective? It might be. We don't know. Can it hurt anything? Absolutely not. So use a butterfly touch. Each point that you touch, we hold for 6 to 8 seconds. And we always like to say, you can practice BioTouch anytime, any place with anyone, and you're going to be totally effective for that person. So that's just the basics before we start getting into the actual teaching you these few sets of points. And just to let you know, we choose a couple of sets of points that are just basic. There's so much more that you can do in this technique to help somebody with Hashimoto. So tonight we're just going to present what we feel are the very basics that you can do just to address this health condition. This next page, we won't go over all of those terms at this point, but we do like to include it because of these first two bullets. The first one is called the associate. Remember, I said this is a relationship of healing, two people practicing BioTouch. One of them is the associate. This is the person that is performing the procedures, the technique. And we do like to kind of give you an overall definition of the dictionary, what an associate does, or who the associate is, I should say. One, often in the company with another, and here's the important part, implying an intimacy or an equality. A true relationship is one of equality. And then one having an interest in common with another. The other half of that relationship is called the recipient. This is the one who receives the touch. And I will say, in that healing, it like a true relationship, both the associate and the recipient are giving and receiving. That's the way BioTouch works. It's just this loving, caring, sacred thing that two people can step into, and it's an amazing gift. So before we get started, Paul, did you want to kind of?
Yeah, so if you'll notice, the manual that you get basically has 2 pages for each set. The one page is this little drawing that you see here with the numbers of the points. And the second page of each set has a picture of somebody doing the points. And then very descriptive explanation of where exactly that point can be found. And then at the bottom of each of those pages, you see here, it says click here to watch video. That's a link to a video on our website that shows somebody doing the points, and the words that you hear on that video are exactly the same as that are written here. So it's a great way that you can teach yourself, so you don't have to memorize what we're going to be showing you here.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's very true. We've made it as easy as we can for everybody to get this amazing gift. So we're going to begin with the first set of points that we're going to introduce to you. It's called the greeting. We cannot stress, this is what you do after you wash your hands. The very first thing that you do is called the greeting before you do anything else before you address any other parts of the body. You want to do the greeting. It's very simple, just 2 points, but it sets up this relationship. It brings the associate and the recipient into a harmony. And so we're going to be watching the videos. Paul's going to be showing the videos so you can actually see somebody performing these sets of points. The one thing that's different about the greeting is that you're going to, you will always use 2 hands, but for the greeting, 1 hand, and it's going to be the dominant hand. And so let's go ahead and watch the video of the greeting.
The greeting is always performed at the beginning of each session. It's the only set that uses 1 hand and the only set that indicates which hand to use. The greeting is performed with the dominant hand. If you are right-handed, use your right hand. If you are left-handed, use your left hand. The greeting is made by touching at point 1, which is in the fleshy area just below the bottom of the breastbone or sternum. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. Then, with the same 2 fingers, touch point 2 on the back. To find point 2, look for the big bone at the base of the neck. From here, move 1 to 1.5 inches to the left. This is point 2. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. More than one associate may work with a recipient provided that all of the associates perform the greeting. If the associate or the recipient leaves the session, or if someone who hasn't done the greeting touches either the recipient or the associate, the greeting must be reestablished. Then the session may proceed from where it was interrupted.
Okay, now that you've done the greeting, we're going to start the very first set that's going to be addressing Hashimoto's. And if you'll look at the diagram, it's like it was built because those first 3 points are right along that thyroid area. Of all the symptoms that Debra was talking about, metabolism just addresses so much of that for the body because it helps the body to assimilate and to eliminate. And a lot of those conditions that goes along with Hashimoto's can seriously be addressed with this set. So let's go ahead and watch the video of the metabolism set.
The metabolism set can be used to help the body assimilate what it needs and eliminate what it doesn't need. The metabolism set has 2 steps. Step 1 involves touching points in matching fire along the large muscles on the front of the neck. Points 1 and 1 are located above the collarbone in the soft indentations on both sides of the notch at the top of the breastbone. Points 2 and 2 are halfway up the neck on the front of the large muscles. Points 3 and 3 are at the top of the neck on the front of the large muscles. The second step involves holding a point on the front of the body and touching points next to the spine on the back. Hold point X on the front of the body is on a line directly between where the nipples would be on a youth and is 1 to 2 inches to the left of the breastbone. Another way to find X is 1/3 of the way up the breastbone from greeting point 1 and 1 to 2 inches to the left of the breastbone. The points on the back are located next to the spine, forming a rectangle around the breakover point. The breakover point is where the bottom of the rib cage joins the spine and can be found by imagining a line directly through the body from greeting point 1. To perform step 2, find hold point X on the front of the body and touch points 1 through 4 on the back. Point 1 is approximately 1 to 2 inches up from the breakover point on the left spine muscle. Point 2 is directly across from point 1 on the right spine muscle. Point 3 is 2 to 3 inches below the breakover point on the right spine muscle. Point 4 is used to address blood sugar problems and is added to the other metabolism points when needed. It is located across from point 3 on the left spine muscle.
Okay. The next set that we want to introduce you to is the headset. And, you know, Deborah was talking about the stress, the depression, sleeping issues. All of this can be addressed by doing the headset, but the chemical and hormonal imbalances is also a very important part of that. So we really want to have this part of the plan for you to use for Hashimoto's. So let's go ahead and watch the headset on the video.
The headset can be used to address conditions related to the brain. There are 4 steps in this set. In step 1, use through fire to touch points A and A. Point A on the back of the head is in the center of the neck at the base of the skull. Point A on the front of the head is at the center of the forehead, where the forehead begins to curve to the crown. Step 2 is performed in crossfire with the fingers of each hand touching on opposite sides of the head. Hold at X, which is in the indentation beside the neck muscle at the base of the skull. It is the same as point 1 of the back set. On the opposite side of the head, touch points 1 through 5. Points 1, 2, and 3 are on the ridge line formed where the skull curves up toward the crown. Point 1 is above the outside corner of the eye on the ridge. Point 2 is above the front of the ear on the ridge. Point 3 is above the back of the ear on the ridge. To locate point 4, move down the head toward the base of the skull to a horizontal indentation approximately 1/3 of the way down from the top of the ear and 1 to 1.5 inches behind the back edge of the ear. Point 5 is opposite hold point X at the base of the skull. Point 5 now becomes the new hold point as points 1 through 5 are touched on the opposite side of the head. In crossfire, touch point 1 above the outside corner of the eye on the ridge. Point 2 above the front of the ear on the ridge. Point 3 is above the back of the ear on the ridge. Point 4 is a horizontal indentation approximately 1/3 of the way down from the top of the ear and 1 to 1.5 inches behind the back edge of the ear. And point 5 is opposite hold point X at the base of the skull. Step 3 is performed in matching fire, touching points 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5. Finally, in step 4, place the open palms of both hands on the head covering points 1 through 3. Be careful, don't let your hands touch each other.
And there you have it. That's the basic sets. It's amazing how simple it is for Hashimoto's.
I know, just that, wow, that really can jumpstart the body.
Yeah, and then we have other sets, you know, if you get the whole manual, you know, that workbook is just a piece of our entire manual. with links to all the different sets. And you can add, we have a set for oxygen point, we have a set for infection, for the autoimmune system. We have a set if you're having allergies with this situation.
Correct.
We have upper and lower abdomen if you're having symptoms of digestive issues. And then if you have local pains, Deborah talked about local pains, especially in the joints. You just take the index and middle fingers of each hand, two hands together, and lightly touch all around that pained area, if it's a joint or a muscle, and just touch lightly. You can touch right on the pain, you can touch through the pain, and you can do what we call light sweeps. That's a slow and deliberate movement of your fingers across the body. And you can do that anywhere, you know, that you have a particular pain, even without knowing any of the other sets of points. So it's very empowering and very easy to do.
It is. It is. I'm just, as I was watching you, I'm thinking, gosh, just having BioTouch just kind of brings your body down, just in
Yes.
that moment. You know?
Yes. So remember, clinically, it's been shown to reduce stress and pain. We've done research. Go to our website, justtouch.com. There's a link up there for all the research we've done. So this is something that's been shown over the past 40 years to truly be effective. And almost immediately, people notice at least that sense of, sense of relaxation. So if you have any questions, please always contact us, justtouch.com. And there's a way to communicate with us there, or office at justtouch.com. There's our phone number, 520-323-7951, and we'll help you with your Hashimoto's disease or any other problems you have.
Any other problems?
That's right. We're here for all problems, including my own.
Yes, I don't know.
I am a problem, so... All right. We thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Bev. You did a great job.
Thank you, one and all, for
and
joining us this evening.
We'll see you all next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Days in and days out, space and time is all about feeling pressure with the pain, in sunshine or in the rain. Living is a place in mind, giving is being kind, and the pain is too much. What we need is BioTouch. When I'm touching you, you are touching me. It's a simple thing to do and a natural way to be.